ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Thursday Night Football Overtime. Preseason week number 1. Carolina Panthers at the New England Patriots. I was really excited for this game, and boy, was I disappointed. You know, this was one of those times where you get reminded of, hey, bro, it's preseason. Okay, pump your brakes and drive slow, homie. Drive slow. So I hunkered down right around 7:07 in my seat, and I got all ready, lathered up. I'm going to get some Drake Maye tonight. Oh, yeah. Going to sit down and watch the number 3 overall pick play about 2, maybe 3 possessions at a minimum, right? Patriots pissed me off before this game. First of all, let me move back a bit. The Panthers pissed me off in this game because before the game even started, they had told us we weren't getting Bryce Young. And in my mind, I'm like, why? Why? Why not? This man should be getting all the reps he can possibly get. Now, if you tell me inclement weather, it's raining on the East Coast, tropical storm, don't want to put him in those conditions, don't want to put my first team offense out there and risk my offensive lineman getting hurt. Okay, I get it. All right, fine, whatever. Still disappointed nonetheless. That felt predetermined. It could have been 80 degrees and sunny, and they weren't going to play, Bryce Young in this game. That felt predetermined, almost like they're hiding something from me. We'll come back to that, though. So I'm excited about Drake Maye, knowing that he's going to play because he's not the starter. And I had been looking for the Patriots' unofficial Deppy since 2 days ago when most of the league released theirs, right? Every team is mandated to release an unofficial depth chart prior to the first preseason game. And the Patriots, in typical Patriots fashion, which is why I can't stand these bastards, they want to release their shit literally an hour before the start of their first preseason game. You dirty bastard. What are you hiding? What are you hiding? Most teams tell you, oh, the coaching staff really didn't have anything to do with it. So what difference does it make if you put it out on Tuesday? Just put the shit out. We know Drake Maye ain't starting. Who cares? Anyway, so we knew Jacoby Brissett was going to start. They had already told us that weeks ago. So Jacoby Brissett comes trotting out to start the game. Cool. He gets his one possession in. And I'm like, all right, here we go. Drake Maye's getting in there. And he comes in and hands it off a couple of times. And I'm thinking to myself, are they going to let him throw it? And then they get a false start penalty. So it was 2nd and maybe 8 after the initial run that he handed off. And then you get the false start penalties like 2nd and 13. Then they hand off a draw. And I'm like, oh, are they really going to cop out? Is he going to hand it off 3 times here? And at this point, though, I did not know that we were only going to get 1 possession of Drake Maye. So on 3rd down and long, after the second handoff went absolutely nowhere, they throw a screen. And I see the back that they throw the screen to, and I'm like, hey, that's a nice run. I wouldn't have cut off of that block the way that he did because he made getting the first down a little bit harder than it needed to be. But all things aside, he got the first down, and it was a nice stiff arm to break the tackle that was going to stop him from getting the first down. Who is that? And then I saw the name on the back of the jersey, and I went, oh, man. That's my old buddy, Antonio Gibson. Oh, man. AG, what up? What up, though? I said, what's up, man? He's like, nothing out here chilling, just trying to get some work in. I said, all right, man, bet. Good to see you, bro. Won't be seeing you too many times this year. You play on one of the worst teams in the league, so it's good to catch up with you now because I probably won't be seeing you too much when the season starts. But he got the first down, so I was like, cool, more Drake Maye. Why not? So my wife asked me on the next play, is this a run? And I'm like, yeah, it's a run. They barely let him throw it on the first series of downs. Yeah, this is a run. They go play action fake. And Drake throws a strike to the receiver, but it's a little high. It's wet outside. It goes right through his hands. I'm like, should have caught that. It's a good throw, actually. But they had Billy Ho on the telecast, which I didn't know Billy Ho had retired. I thought he was on someone's, roster, Raiders or Colts. He's always on the Colts or the Patriots roster. Josh McDaniels, wherever he goes, Billy Ho follows. Well, Josh is no longer in the league, so I guess that's why he doesn't have a job right now. So he was, on the telecast, and he talked about when it's wet outside, you really want to put it on the guy's chest plate, because in these types of conditions, ball slick, could go through guys' hands, and then once it tips in the air, it's anybody's guess as to what's going to happen next. So while it was a great throw by Drake Maye, you would like to see him get it down, put it in the, in between the numbers, and make it an easier catch for the receiver. But, all things considered, should have been caught. They ran it on the next play, and then he threw a check down on the final play of that drive. It was 3rd and long. I think they had another penalty, and he checked it down. But it was a good decision, right? They had dropped into soft coverage. There was nothing there. Take what they're giving you. Nice check down. They still ended up maybe 4 yards short of the first down. They had to punt. So I'm thinking, hey, that's not a bad debut, right? Threw 3 passes, completed 2 of them. The one that wasn't complete. Now, granted, both were underneath. The one that wasn't complete, they did a play action fake, took a little bit of a little intermediate shot to get a chunk play there, and it should have been caught. I said, that's a good start. Give me one more possession and I'm good. And so Patriots get a stop. They get the ball back. And I'm in my phone. I'm not paying attention. I hear a serenade of boos. I quickly look up. And what do I see? I see the reason the crowd's booing. What the hell is this? Where is Drake Maye? Why am I seeing Bailey Zappe in the game? It's not Zappe hour yet. Okay? It's not Zappe hour. Okay? I need some more Drake Maye. What are we doing here? They said, nah, you got you some Drake Maye, 1 possession, just like you got 1 possession of Jacoby Brissett. Go on about your business. I said, that's not how this is supposed to work. That's not how any of this works. So, needless to say, I was disappointed. Probably the right phrase would be, I was upset, not disappointed. I was mad. Like, wait, that's it? 1 possession, that's all I get? I'm okay with the starter getting 1 possession. Like Jaden Daniels, for instance, I think he's going to play 1 possession. Granted, Drake Maye did get a first down. And so maybe they felt like had he gone 3 and out, they would have sent him out there again. But because he got to run another set of plays, they felt like 6 plays was enough. But I think McCourty, which though the McCourty twins were doing the game, and they that was a rough. That was a lot of these preseason. We talked about this last year. A lot of these preseason telecasts are rough, right? Man, are they hard on the ears, right? The McCourty twins did not do me any favors tonight. But one of the few gems they did offer up was maybe they wanted to get those starting offensive linemen out of the game, right? And that's when it dawned on me, okay, all right, I get it, right? You had him in for Jacoby Brissett. You got to keep him in for Drake Maye. You're not going to put him in there and have backup offensive linemen in the game, right? You're not going to put him at risk. So the sooner you get him out, once Bailey Zappe's in there, you put anybody in the game you want at that point. Take the receivers out. You could take out, the offensive linemen, tight ends, et cetera, et cetera. So that was probably the impetus behind 1 possession for Drake Maye and then get him out of there. I still, it doesn't make me feel any better about the fact that I sat down, was excited, got one possession, 3 passing attempts, and then you yanked them. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? And the crowd felt the same way. And even the play-by-play guy was like, yeah, I think, he said, did you guys think that was enough? Like, did you guys want a little bit more? And everybody kind of like in unison was like, yeah, we thought we were getting at least one more possession, right? So it was a little bit frustrating. I'm not going to lie. He didn't look bad. I like what I saw. He looked poised. He looked comfortable. Again, it wasn't much, but it looked like a guy that understood the assignment. You know, let's not come out here, try to set the world on fire, take what they give you, right? He looked comfortable. He looked confident. They got in and out of the huddle. I like what I saw from Drake Maye. Very brief, obviously, small sample size. And then Bailey Zappe came in and played essentially the entire game until, you know, the fourth quarter or so. Joe Milton came in, and I had forgotten that he was there. I really, truly did. And we'll talk about Joe Milton in a second. Let me talk about a couple of guys that stood out for me prior to Joe Milton getting into the game. Kayshon Boutte is a receiver that is easily to forget about in New England. A lot of people forget he was supposed to be the next guy up in that LSU string of receivers, right? They had a run at LSU. Well, it's still going on right now of receivers where it started with Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, really, and Odell Beckham Jr., but Jarvis Landry was first. Then it was Odell Beckham Jr., right? Then it was DJ Chark, if I'm not mistaken. I might be missing one guy in there. But then it was DJ. I know the Buster Davis was supposed to be good, but he wasn't. But then it was DJ Chark. Then it was Justin Jefferson. Then it was Jamar Chase. And then it was supposed to be Kayshon Boutte, right? This guy was a 5-star recruit, the #2 receiver in his high school class, right? #2 receiver coming out of high school that year. And 5-star recruit, goes to LSU, has a 300-yard receiving game. He's the next big thing. And I don't really know what happened. I think he had a knee injury in college, I think. But he just kind of fell off, right? Didn't become what he was supposed to. And then, obviously, we just saw what Malik Neighbors became. And also the other receiver that got drafted, Brian Thomas Jr. So there was this long lineage of receivers coming out of LSU, and he was supposed to be a part of that, and he really just kind of faded, right? He can play football, though, and he made a couple of really nice catches in this game. One was on like a little flip from Bailey Zappe. Zappe got out of the pocket, scrambled up, and he could have run, but he sees Kayshon Boutte running in front of him, so he just kind of flips it underhand to him, like shovel style, and it's behind him. But he doesn't stop running. He doesn't break stride. He just reaches behind him as he's running and snatches it and runs up the field. It's a great catch because it was not an easy ball to catch when you're running full speed in the opposite direction. The ball's thrown behind you. Then the best catch of the night is a laser, a rope from Bailey Zappe with a defender. And people, I don't think, understand how tough of a catch this is. When somebody flashes in front of your face and you lose vision of the football temporarily. That's why you see a lot of guys drop passes when a hand flashes in their face. They don't even touch the ball, but it's just that brief second where you can't see the ball and then the ball's on you. It's hard for you to then corral it, right? He literally has a defender almost touch the football, hand flash in his face, and he reaches up, snatches the ball out of there, and this is a bullet. I mean, this has hot sauce to go on it, and he snatches that thing, doesn't move. And on a night where there were so many drop passes, so many guys that didn't corral the football because it was wet out, for him to snatch it out of the air that way, turn up the field and get it down inside the 5, set up the first touchdown of the game. Great catch. I like him a lot, and we're going to see what he can do because I still don't have any confidence in the kid that they took out of Baylor. As a matter of fact, Jacoby Brissett threw him a deep ball. It was underthrown. It was underthrown. He should have drawn a pass interference there. Instead of him jumping back or slowing down enough to where the defender runs into him, he keeps running and jumps in the air as he's drifting back to allow the defender to then turn and knock the ball away. Had he stopped trying to come back to the football, he would have drawn the flag. That's what he should have done there. A veteran savvy play there is to draw the flag because it's a poorly thrown football. Get the yardage. But like Thornton is another one of these receivers. I've always said Belichick was never good at drafting receivers. And I look at Thornton and I think he's another one of these guys is just not going to work out. But maybe I'm wrong about him. We'll see. But I like Kayshon Boutte. Then they got this kid, David Walls, returning kicks, punts. He's interesting. They said he's been making plays in camp, and they got excited every time he touched it on punts. He had a nice punt return. 2 of them, actually, but one in particular, the first one, when he turned the corner, I said, hey, you might have something, man. This could be your new, Edelman, Danny Amendola type player. Well, we'll see. There could be a home for him. He keeps returning the ball like that. It's a lot of receivers in New England, which is why they went after Brandon Ayuk. It's a lot of stuff. None of it elite. Javon Baker, he is going to be interesting. I liked him coming out of UCF. He got down the sideline loose early in the second quarter, and Zappe missed him. It was a poorly thrown football. He actually got up on top of the corner, and the safety didn't get over there in time. A good ball there, and who knows, that could have been a big gain. That was really the extent of what we saw from Baker in this game. He did have a catch with Milton, a little catch from Joe Milton when he first came in the game, but it's a lot of stuff. I forgot that Juju Smith-Schuster was still in New England, right? You still are waiting for my man from San Francisco to come off of the PUP list because he's coming back from the ACL injury. It's a lot of receivers, just none. I even forgot that they picked up, what was the name of that receiver? Now I got to go and check and see. I looked and I said, wow, they got a deep roster of receivers. Again, none of them needle movers per se, but I had forgot that they had Jalen Reagor. He was on the team last year. I forgot he was even there. So it's a lot of receivers. Kendrick Bourne is who I was thinking of coming off the PUP list. He's a good player. KJ Osborne, Kayshon Boutte, Jalen Reagor, Javon Baker, Demario Douglas, Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyquan Thornton. Like, how many receivers are you keeping? Jeez, right? And you tried to trade for Brandon Ayuk. Like, you already got too many receivers as is, and you tried to trade for Ayuk? That's crazy. Like, how many receivers are you keeping? 7? Bourne, Osborne, Boutte. You got to keep Javon Baker. You drafted him in the 4th round or 3rd round, I believe. Demario Douglas, Juju Smith-Schuster. That's 6 right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Are you cutting Tyquan Thornton? If not, that's 7. I just talked about the David Wallace or Willis kid, or Wallace or Walls. I don't know what the hell they're going to do. And you tried to trade for Brandon Ayuk. So they don't know what they're going to do at receiver. You're probably going to be able to keep an extra receiver because Kendrick Bourne might not be ready, in time for the season. He might start on the PUP list. But once he comes back, you're going to have to cut bait with somebody. But I digress. Dietrich Wise had a sack early, first possession of the game. That was good to see. Overall, it was a solid showing against two bad teams, 2 of the teams in the league that you don't really expect much from at this point. I was interested to see the unofficial Deppy Juju Smith-Schuster, he was lining up with the twos. And I mean, we were well into the second quarter and he was still in the game. So I don't know, man. We might still be thinking about Juju Smith-Schuster like he was in Pittsburgh, but them days might be over with. So who knows? He could be on the chopping block for all I know. Somebody ain't making the team. I just told you. They got a bunch of receivers. Everybody can't make the squad. So we'll see what they actually decide to do. But, you know, I got a treat. I stuck around. As disappointed as I was with Drake Maye not playing but one possession, I stuck around and I forgot that Joe Milton was on this roster, that they drafted him late in the draft, right? And my wife said, they drafted 2 quarterbacks? I said, yeah, they did. I didn't even remember that. So I was all right. So I got a reason to stick around. And Joe made it worth my while, right? He came in, gave them some energy, a little shot in the arm, had a crazy scramble. I'm yelling the entire play. This is a real story. I'm literally yelling, get rid of it, Joe. Joe, throw it away. Throw it away. He makes the first defender miss. I'm thinking, if there's not a receiver open flashing in front of your face right now that you can throw it to, throw the football away. He keeps running out towards the sidelines. Another defender's coming. I'm yelling, throw it away, Joe. What are you doing? You just had a good play on the last snap. Don't erase that with the 8-9 yard loss on a sack where you can just throw it away. He breaks that tackle, reverse pivots, turns around and starts running the wrong way. I'm like, oh shit, he's running even further backwards. This is going to be a disaster. He picks up a block. He keeps running. I'm waiting for somebody to flash in front of him so he can throw it. And at this point, he just said, F it. He's tucked the football. I was like, uh-oh, he's running. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. He's got a little wall set up. You know, there's no pen. Everybody's over pursued to the right side of the field. He's broken it back towards his left. And he's just running. And next thing you know, he does a little shimmy. You know, defender comes, and you could tell he was gassed. It was amazing because he ran about 35, 40 yards, but he only picked up 13 yards because he ran backwards, then towards the sidelines, then he turned pirouette, ran back up the field, or back towards the wrong end zone, comes back around, runs towards the right end zone, and picks up 13 yards. So in all actuality, he gained 13, but he probably ran about 35, 40 yards. It was a dope play. It was fun to watch. He was gassed. You could tell. When he fell down, it took a little while for him to get up. You could tell, like, and the McCourty twins were like, I bet you Alex Van Pelt, who is the offensive coordinator for the Patriots, bet you he's calling a run play on this snap. I said, you damn right he is. You damn right he is. So he came in, gave him a spark. And then he threw a touchdown pass on a double move. Great move by the receiver. And he got it to him, scored the touchdown. I said, good for Joe, man. My wife said, Drake Maye better look out. I said, nah, don't do that. We're not doing that. We're not playing that game right now. I said, at least not yet. That's a fun little situation there. They got 4 quarterbacks though. So my guess is they're keeping 3, right? No reason to cut Bailey Zappe. He serves a purpose still. But I can't see them keeping Joe Milton. Now, I do see him being on the practice squad. And keep in mind, the entire league spoke. He didn't get drafted till the 7th round. So it's not like, you know, teams are out here, you know, fighting over Joe Milton. They had chances to draft him, and they made their decision on him. So I say that now, but if he keeps playing well in the preseason, all it takes is, if I'm Indianapolis, I don't know who their current backup is, but whoever your backup is doesn't resemble Anthony Richardson. I can tell you that. And I don't even know who your backup quarterback is. I could be wrong. My guess is that guy doesn't resemble Anthony Richardson. I see Joe Milton. I said the perfect place for Joe Milton was Buffalo. That's where I would have put him. That's where I wanted him to get drafted. They obviously went back and they double dipped on Mitchell Trubisky. So they're getting seconds of that. But I feel like a great developmental place for him would have been Buffalo. all it takes is for one team to see what he's doing in the preseason and say, you know what? Maybe we can develop this kid. And so if you're New England, you got a decision to make. Is it Bailey Zappe that you want to stash away on the practice squad? Or is it Joe Milton the third that you want to roll the dice and hope that he clears waivers and you get to put him on the practice squad? Interesting decision there because they're keeping 3. They're not keeping 4. Generally, when a team drafts a quarterback, you usually try to keep that guy. If you can get him on the practice squad, you get him on the practice squad. But if you have to use a roster spot, you usually use a roster spot because you don't want to lose a guy that you invested a pick in. 7th round pick, yeah, you might be more willing to say, all right, whatever. But his future to me is brighter than that of Bailey Zappe, but Zappe is more ready to play now. So if something were to happen to Brissett, you're not ready to put Maye in the game yet, you could put Bailey Zappe in and you're fine. You can't do that with Joe Milton. You might as well play Drake Maye. So interesting dilemma. Obviously, there's 2 more preseason games. Clearly, from what we saw tonight, those 2 quarterbacks are going to be playing the bulk of the preseason, Zappe and Milton. And maybe the better of the 2 throughout the preseason will be the one that gets the nod. Maybe they're playing for that final third quarterback spot on the roster. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're just showcasing, Joe Milton is just showcasing his talents to the other 31 teams. And if nobody is blown away by, the talent that they see and the upside and the development possibility, he'll just end up on the Patriots practice squad. We'll see. Anyway, quickly on the Panthers, because I was so pissed off that they didn't play Bryce Young, that there was really nothing there for me. Like, they were just there. And I think the final score indicated that because they only scored a field goal in this game. Okay. They had the Plummer kid play the entire game, rookie quarterback out of Louisville, played the entire game. And he wasn't terrible. Or I say that he played essentially the entire game. I think Jake Luton came in for maybe a possession or 2 at the very end, but this was essentially the Plummer show. And he showed off some wheels, a little bit of wheels. I thought early on, the first pass almost got picked off. He almost threw another pass that almost got picked off. But outside of those 2 passes, for the most part, I thought early on, he threw some BBs. And that was when the game was its wettest. The rain was coming down its hardest at the beginning of this game. So guys had trouble catching the football. But he threw one to Terrence Marshall, drop. He threw one to Mingo, hit him right between the 1 and the 5. That one pissed me off. The Marshall one, I was upset, but it was a hands catch that was required away from his frame in the pouring rain. All right, whatever. The Mingo one, I'm like, bro, he did you a favor, a solid. He put it in between the 1 and the, you just had to squeeze it. And he dropped that one. So I was like, this is the problem in Carolina. Everybody wants to blame Bryce Young. And I'm not telling you that Bryce wasn't ass last year. I more so look at the situation. I really look at Bryce's rookie season and I say it is akin to Jacksonville's rookie season with Trevor Lawrence, with what they had out there with Urban Meyer, right? It was just a shit show. You couldn't have any growth and development in that environment. It just wasn't going to happen. So looking at their situation last year and how messy it was and firing your head coach after, 11 games or whatever it was, and having backbiting and people, fighting to try to, keep their jobs. And it just was a very unhealthy environment. I think this year is a much better situation for him. And you could see that big leap that you're looking for from Bryce to show life as the number 1 overall pick from last year's draft. I really wanted to see him tonight, but with the receiver you drafted out of South Carolina, Xavier Legette, injured, right? This is what you have on your roster. That's the part that's tough, is that there just still isn't enough stuff on the field around him. Guys need to make plays. So till you get Leggett back, it's still kind of bare. The cupboard still feels kind of bare. Let me look and see. Is the white dude? Oh shucks. Thielen, Adam Thielen still there? He played his ass off last year. Outside of him, you didn't have shit at receiver. Is he still there? Because he played his ass off last year. I would think that he played well enough. Yeah, he's still there. So Amir Smith-Marset had a drop tonight. Mingo had a drop. Marshall had a drop. So it's just, but you did trade for Deontay Johnson. So when it's all said and done, once you get healthy, a trio of Thielen, Leggett, and Johnson, Deontay Johnson, should be really good. You added Jatavion Sanders in the draft. You still got Tommy Tremble and Ian Thomas at tight end. So the weapons don't look as bad once I look at the whole picture. And then you drafted the kid out of Texas, too, at the running back position, Brooks. He's not going to be back for a little while, though, because he's coming off of an ACL. He's probably literally going to miss the first half of the season because he tore his ACL so late in the college football season. So you probably won't get him back. My guess is until 4 or 5 games into the season. But maybe there is life. Maybe there is a chance. Man, it feels really desolate in Carolina right now. It does. But that's because we didn't see anything tonight. They didn't show anything. Nobody played. It was just a bunch of backups. So I digress. Hopefully you get Leggett back here shortly, and you can start to build that continuity that is necessary between wide receiver and quarterback. Final score in this game, 17-3. Patriots get the win. So let's quickly go inside the odds. Really quickly, let's go inside the odds.
Inside the odds.
Inside the Odds is brought to you by BetUS. If you're looking for a new book this football season, BetUS is the answer. They got the fastest payouts in the industry, 125% sign-up bonus for up to $2,000 on your first 3 deposits, fast and easy deposits and withdrawal process. And if you want to check them out, the link is in the description of this video. So, as you can see, the money line on the game, plus 250 for the Panthers. So Vegas, they knew what was up, right? Minus 300 for the Patriots. So they knew the Patriots were going to win this game. You see what the total was, 33.5. And a lot of what I've realized too, looking at a lot of the totals for these preseason games, the totals are pretty low because you don't score a lot of points in the preseason because, again, most times the starters aren't playing. So a lot of snaps, obviously. I just told you Drake Maye played 1 possession. Jacoby Brissett played 1 possession. There was no Bryce Young in this game. So the totals are relatively low. You're not going to see many totals hit 40 in the preseason. A lot of these totals are going to be in the 30s between the two teams. You see the spread. And again, Vegas nailed it. 6.5, minus 6.5 for the Patriots. They saw what was coming here in this particular game, and they pretty much nailed all of it, and including the total. The under, obviously, if you were betting, would have been probably, and really in the preseason, that's going to be your choice, your method of betting. If you're going to bet on the total, bet the under most of these games, okay? You're not going to get a lot of teams playing their primary players. So let's continue to go inside the odds. And we talk about the Carolina Panthers and their regular season win total odds for the season. 5.5 wins is where BetUS has their total, right? So on the money line, if you're betting the over, -130, okay? If you're betting the under, and this is really interesting. They have the money on the money line. It's even money. They're like, look, you're not going to wreck us, because what they're essentially saying is, we think that they suck ass. And there's a very realistic possibility that they won't win 6 games this season. And what you're not going to do is pound us on the under and have us paying out a whole bunch of money. So it's set at even money right now. The 5.5 under. I would probably take the under, which is why they have it set at even money. I don't see the Panthers winning 6 games this season. But you know what? I am intrigued by their first-year head coach, Dave Canales. I love what he did with Baker last year. And he's a smart guy. I listened to him talk a number of times this offseason about what went wrong with Bryce and how they stripped him down and they built him back up, and how they're getting back to the basics. They're going to run the football. They're going to do all these things. They went out and fortified the offensive line. I talked about some of the weapons that they've added this offseason. So they're going to give him a fighting chance. This feels a lot like, if we're being honest with one another, this feels a lot like that third year of Justin Fields in Chicago, when they finally said, okay, Justin, we're going to give you a fair shot. We're going to go out here, we're going to get you some talent, and we're going to finally give you an opportunity to rock. This is what it feels like this year. Because last year, he didn't stand a chance. They set that young man up for failure. From the top down, they set him up. The roster was awful. Front office did a terrible job of setting the scene for him with the coaching staff and all of that. It was a mess. First year offensive coordinator who wasn't really calling plays, then he was calling plays, then he wasn't calling plays. It was a train wreck. Feels a little bit different this year, but is it going to translate to victories is the question. I don't know. That's where you really got to kind of figure that out, right? Let's look at the Patriots odds this season via BetUS. So 4.5 is the number for the Patriots. 4.5 is the number. On the money line, if you take the over, so you're saying they're going to win 5 games or more, it's -160, right? If you're going to take the under, it's +130. I always like to say, I'm going to bet $100. That's the number that is easiest to keep track of. Throw down $100. Essentially, Vegas is saying the Patriots are bad, but we don't think they're bad enough that they're going to win less than 5 games. They'll be somewhere in that neighborhood, right? They're trying to entice you with the +130 because a lot of people think the Patriots are going to be the worst team in football this year. I don't know if I agree with that or not. Looking at their roster, looking at their staff, their coaching staff, and how they do business, I think they're gonna be a scrappy bunch. I think they're not gonna be the most talented team on the field most weeks, but they're gonna be a scrappy bunch that's gonna be well coached, I believe, and that's gonna give them a shot. Sort of like the Raiders last year when Antonio Pierce took over. There was a different edge and attitude to that team. I kind of see that a little bit with Gerard Mayo. So the +130, they're trying to invite you to bang the under. And the Patriots might mess around and win 5 games this season. Now, they're playing a tough division. It's rugged in the AFC East because there's no other weak link except the Patriots. Really, they should be the ones being picked on. If they win a game in the division, they'll be lucky. Because if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, they should be swept by the Jets. The Dolphins should get them twice, but you just never know. The Dolphins show up to Foxborough, they could easily lay an egg. I don't trust them, especially if they play them. And I don't know when they play them. If they play them late in the year when it's cold, I don't trust the Dolphins in cold weather games, okay? So they could get the Dolphins. And then, the Bills, they beat the Bills last year. And a lot of people are looking at the Bills side-eye like, I don't know about you. They could sneak a game or two in the division. Who knows? They're inviting you to bet the under here. 100 will get you a 130. Why not? Right? Why not? So anyway, that was Inside the Odds powered by Bet US. So let's get to the comment section. See what you guys have to say. And see what you guys are talking about tonight. We started off with my guy, Landry Balbin. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Landry. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB Rights. We might be able to get our good old pal, the Sly Guy. He is not the Patriots starting kicker. Not sure if you noticed. I didn't really pay attention to that. I forgot he was in New England, to be honest with you. I'm not fiending over Joey Sly. All right. I like Joey. I would prefer Joey over the two kickers we currently have, but you can do better than Joey. Now, again, I'm not clocking. So what I told myself is I'm not going to obsess over other teams' kicking situations. If I'm watching a game and I happen to see a team and I see their kicking situation, and then I happen to stumble upon that they have an extra kicker, but I didn't see this guy in the game, and so I'm realizing what's going on, then yeah, like, I remember it was like 4 or 5 years ago, the Ravens had this kicker, I forgot his name, but he was kicking the hell out of the football in the preseason. And we knew that he wasn't making their team. Obviously, they have Justin Tucker. And they didn't have Tucker kicking in the preseason for what? We know what Tucker is. So they let this dude kick, and he was nailing them from like 55 and 56 in the preseason and just crushing the football. And man, it was like his name was like Medvig or something like that, right? Anyway, long story short, obviously he didn't make their team. He gets scooped up, and I remember saying at that time, I was like, man, we could use this guy. God, he's kicking the hell out of the football. And then he gets signed by another team, and he stunk. And he's not even in the league anymore. So you got to be careful with that. Generally, you want guys with a proven track record who have done it in this league before. There's going to be one or two kickers that get released who are kickers that have been in this league, that have made kicks. And essentially, that's what we'll be picking from if they decide to go outside of the two kickers that they already have in-house in Washington. And Sly might be one of those kickers that they kick the tires on, right? They could have had him back. This new group came in, and they decided to go with Brandon McManus. So we'll see what happens. But you're right. I watched this game, and I didn't see Joey Sly not one time. So maybe that means that he isn't their primary kicker. Maybe, they're having a kicking competition, and this was the kicker that they had out there, his opportunity to go first. Sly will go in the next game. Who knows? I could have sworn the Patriots just drafted a kicker not too long ago. So it kind of feels like they got their guy already, and Sly's going to be cut inevitably. But we'll see, right? He's not the only guy around the league that's going to get cut, and we'll have an opportunity. And remember, we're number 2 in the totem pole. If someone gets cut and they got to pass through waivers, if we put in a claim and the Panthers don't want him, we get him. So, again, I'm not going to jump ship on these kickers. I don't trust either one of them. You guys know that. But these games are going to tell the story. If they kick well in the game, and I told you, for as much as I don't trust Riley Patterson, he can kick the football, and he does have experience in the NFL. So we'll see, right? But you're right. I didn't see the Sly guy out there. So that I think does kind of bode well for him getting cut. But again, you just don't know the inner workings of what they're doing in New England. So, matter of fact, let me check their kicking situation, because I could have sworn that they just signed a kicker not too long ago. And if that's in fact the case, then he doesn't stand a chance to make that roster if they did just sign a kicker. Chad Ryland is their kicker. I feel like they just drafted Chad Ryland like 2 or 3 years ago. So, yeah, slotted as their second kicker right now on their roster. It feels like he's going to get cut. It does feel pretty imminent to me, but we'll see. Swaggy P, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Swaggy P, writes, you see Jerry Jones say they don't have urgency to get a deal done for CeeDee Lamb, and CeeDee responded with LOL. I did see that. Somebody sent that to me on my timeline, and I saw it, and I went, uh-oh. And, this is the thing that Jerry likes to do. He likes to be the center of attention. Again, right now, there aren't many great Cowboys storylines outside of CeeDee Lamb. And with CeeDee Lamb not being at camp and them placing him on the did not report list, there really isn't a storyline in Dallas right now. So it's Jerry wants to make sure that the Cowboys stay on the tip of everyone's tongue. And this is how he's doing it, by running his mouth and flapping his gums and running his trap hole. And obviously, CeeDee Lamb, like, it's going to get done, right? Which is why Jerry can say craziness like, we're not in any hurry. There's no urgency on our part. He can say that because it's going to get done. They're not playing. The games don't count yet. Last time I checked, it's August 8th. The games don't count until September. So he knows that. And he knows that CD will be ready. He knows the offense. He doesn't need the preseason. He wasn't going to play in it anyway. And that's why he said there's no urgency. When again, deadline spur action. I've said that many a times. And we see that all the time in the NFL. Same thing with the 49ers. Trent Williams wasn't going to play in the preseason anyway. And he doesn't need the preseason. And he'll come in tremendous shape. They know that. And so they'll get something done with him on the 25th hour before the season starts. And they'll go play football, right? Same thing with CeeDee Lamb. But Jerry, it's just amazing to me how tone deaf he can be. Like, why are you alienating one of your best players? What's the point of this? Exactly, right? Just shut up. If he's not being signed yet, why do you think it's a smart idea to talk about his contractual situation in the media, and not favorably, not in a favorable light, I may add, right? Almost as if you are looking at CeeDee Lamb, kind of taking him for granted, so to speak. It just doesn't make any sense. But this is why I said we must protect Jerry Jones at all costs. He's an ignoramus. He can't get out of his own way. He is a sieve on that Cowboys organization, and I love to see it. Long live Jerry Jones. Long live Jerry Jones. He says, it's like watching the Titanic sink slowly, but it's taking place in Dallas. I still don't think Dallas is going to suck this year, but boy, they make it hard on me, man, because I'm looking at the way this offseason is gone, and I'm looking at how all the other teams in the division, even the bottom feeders like Washington and the Giants, have, made improvements. And again, it's incremental improvements for, the Giants and the Commanders, but it's an improvement nonetheless. And it doesn't feel like Dallas got any better. As a matter of fact, feels like they got worse this offseason. And the Eagles feel like they got better, right? And it just feels like you could easily see Dallas kind of falling back towards the pack. And so I don't know if they're sinking or not. It feels like they are, but I still feel like when the games matter, they're going to turn it up and they're going to end up being a solid team. Again, I don't think they're going to win the division. But I do think they can still win 10 games, make the playoffs as a wild card, and then you just see what happens at that point. But I would love it if they went 8-9 this year and the bottom fell out of their season. That would really be the Titanic sinking. That 8-9 would mean that they hit that iceberg and that ship is sinking because everybody's getting fired at that point. Or in the case of all of their coaches and Dak Prescott, who are all on one-year deals, nobody's coming back. Maybe Dak would, but we know McCarthy wouldn't in that situation. Zimmer wouldn't in that situation, et cetera, et cetera. So I hope you're right. There's nothing more enjoyable than watching the Cowboys suffer. So I hope that happens. I really, truly do. Christopher McLaughlin, my guy, Chris. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Chris, writes, hey, Lou. Hope all is well with you and the family. Likewise. Really appreciate you, Chris. He writes, 2 questions. 1, what would you consider a successful year for Bryce Young at quarterback and why? And 2, do you think Prescott's possible contract extension will be determined by the Cowboys' performance in the playoffs? That's a tough one. That's a good question, Chris. So the first one pertaining to Bryce Young, a successful season for him is looking competent, looking like a real, true NFL quarterback, because he did not last season. He looked out of sorts. He looked overwhelmed and overmatched. And it was to the point where Panthers fans were picking apart every single part of this man's game and body. He's too small. His hands are too small. He can't play. He looks like a infant out there. Like he doesn't have enough mustard on the ball. He can barely grip it. I mean, they were tearing him to shreds. He has to, the football didn't get any bigger from college to the NFL. They're not playing with a bigger football. He can grip the football. He can throw the football. He didn't forget how to play football. He's always been this size, right? The players aren't that much bigger from SEC to the NFL. So while they are bigger, they are faster, they are stronger, which makes him look a lot more feeble. He still is fully capable. And so he needs to show that. And again, while he didn't do himself any favors last year, they didn't do him any favors. And it's more about the situation that you find yourself in as a young quarterback and how you're handled and managed versus your talent. You can be the most. I watched Ryan Leaf come into the NFL. I watched a lot of quarterbacks, super talented, David Carr come into the NFL, guys that could really play. And they were destroyed. Leaf was a head case. But in the case of a David Carr, the man got sacked 1 trillion times in his rookie season. That plays a mental toll on you, right? Takes a mental toll on you. So it was a tough season for Bryce Young, but a successful season, I don't think can be measured in wins and losses, because the Panthers, I still don't think are going to be a very good team. They play in a lousy division though, right? So who knows? However, what it really boils down to is he needs to look the part. And when I say that, every week the Panthers fans need to feel like we have a shot because Bryce Young is our quarterback. We're not going to lose because of Bryce Young, or we're not going to win in spite of Bryce Young, which was the case last year a lot of times, right? They need to win games because Bryce Young is playing well, managing the game, making some throws, making some plays with his legs when necessary, and doing the things that a number 1 overall pick at the quarterback position should make and do. So a successful season for me is him coming out of this thing, having changed the minds of not only the organization, but the fan base, who really, a lot of them turned on him last year. They need to come out of this season saying, hey, we got our quarterback. That's a successful season. I said the same thing about Jaden Daniels. Like, forget about wins and losses for a second. We all know that's what it all boils down to, but forget about that for right now. Just focus on the process and seeing if this guy can do it. And what you should be able to determine when it's all said and done is, oh, no, we got our guy. We can start building around this dude because we got our quarterback. That's what Panthers fans should be saying come the end of this season, right? As far as Dak and his contractual situation, I've said this, and remember, we were on the NFC East Super Friends, and we had Scooter Magruder on the program, and he's like, no, the deal's getting done. He's not going anywhere. And I tend to believe that, right? I want to believe that, but this is the second time you've allowed Dak Prescott to have you by the scrotum. And not only that, like, even Dak is starting to entertain the idea, because Dak doesn't want to leave Dallas. Who are we kidding? I've already said this a million times over. There's no more prestigious job in the NFL than being the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. There's too many perks that come with. What does Dak Prescott ever want, right? If you take Dak Prescott and drop him in Atlanta or Minnesota or Cleveland, do you think he has a sleep mattress commercial? Do you think he has a chunky soup commercial? I got the answer for you. No, he doesn't, okay? The fact that he plays for the Dallas Cowboys means that those doors are open for you that aren't open playing starting quarterback, having the resume that he has, which is you ain't won anything in this league other than regular season games. He doesn't want to leave that behind. But I watched his press conference like a week ago when he got to camp in Oxnard, and he said, look, let's be honest. I want to be a Cowboy for life, but, you know, it is a business, and I have started to think about what happens, and there may be life after Dallas, and I have to prepare myself for that. But right now, I'm worried about, you know, this upcoming season and trying to be the best player I can be for the Cowboys this year and trying to win. But yes, I do think that there's an outside shot that if things don't go well, and again, for Dak to not be back, I think they've got to have a 9-8 or 8-9 record and miss the playoffs. And he's got to be partly responsible for that, right? If he goes out and he is slinging it and he's awesome, but they have this defensive letdown because Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. are no longer there, and Mike Zimmer just isn't able to cut it, which I don't think is going to happen. But if that were to be the case, then I could see Dak still being back despite a losing record, or, you know, barely making it over 500 but missing the playoffs. But if he throws, you know, 16 interceptions and in 2 or 3 games back-breaking picks that cost them, and ultimately he's a huge part of the reason why they miss out on the playoffs. Yeah, I think he could be gone along with McCarthy and Zimmer and everyone else. Could be a total cleaning of the house, and I just don't think the Cowboys are in a position to do that. Because if Jerry's serious about winning a Super Bowl, or at least contending for one with the rest of his life that's remaining, and we don't know how long he's got left, but Jerry's getting up there. We've listened to him talk here over the last couple of weeks, and he sounds like a guy that's running out of real estate up there. That bandwidth is not as strong, and it's not as much of it as it used to be, right? That said, if you don't bring back Dak Prescott, where are you going? Who's your quarterback? Because, again, newsflash, even if Dallas isn't good, they're 9-8, 8-9. That's not good enough to get you a quarterback. So you either got to trade up, and keep in mind, most times, not all the time, the last 2 years, it hasn't really been the case. Well, this year it was. But even then, the Bears had a decision to make, and they decided to keep the number 1 overall pick and take Caleb Williams, but they could have traded the pick. Generally speaking, the team that finishes with the number 1 overall pick or the number 2 overall pick or these teams stink at the quarterback position and need a quarterback. So they're not looking to deal with you so you can come up and get a quarterback, because they need a quarterback. We just watched Hard Knocks offseason with the New York Giants, and they wanted to get up to 3 to draft Drake Maye, and the Patriots were like, yeah, I mean, we would do it, but we kind of need a quarterback. So, yeah, I think we're going to stay here at 3. That's what you run into, right? And that, I don't know what the draft is going to look like at quarterback next year. We do this every year, start looking at preseason Heisman hopefuls and things of that nature. And you start talking about Shedeur Sanders, and you look at the quarterback at Texas, and you start looking around at all these guys, and you say, oh, this guy should be good, and this guy should be good, and that guy should be good, and that guy should be good. And then you get to next year, and there's only 2 really good quarterbacks. Who knows what it's going to be? The bottom line is, if you move on from Dak Prescott, then who? You know, I jokingly said Trey Lance, but seriously, what are you winning with Trey Lance? The flip side of that is, what are you winning with Dak Prescott? Right now, nothing, but you got a much better shot with him than you do any other quarterback. Obviously, when I say any other quarterback, that is at the disposal of the Dallas Cowboys. So it's hard for me to see them not bringing him back, but the fact that he's playing on the final year of his deal and will be an unrestricted free agent next year, and the Cowboys cannot franchise tag him, Dak has all the leverage here. And he doesn't have to play hardball with Dallas. He can just move on. And trust me, I guarantee you there will be 5 to 7 teams lining up to sign Dak Prescott should he become a free agent. Don't kid yourself. We can sit here and talk about what Dak isn't. There are a lot of teams that want a quarterback that almost was the league MVP a season ago and has as many regular season wins under his belt as Dak Prescott does. Look at what happened with Kirk Cousins last year. Look at what happened with Kirk Cousins the first time he hit free agency. Don't fool yourself into thinking Dak Prescott won't have a list of suitors lined up. The Vegas Raiders would pay him, slide him a blank check right now. Come be our quarterback. Please. I beg you. You don't think the Vegas Raiders would sign him up immediately next year if he became a free agent? Yeah, right. Try me. Okay. And there are other teams, not just the Vegas Raiders, that would be in a similar spot next year that would be dying to get a guy like Dak Prescott onto their roster. So it's a really interesting dynamic. The Cowboys are, you're right. I mean, earlier, my guy Swaggy P said it's like watching the Titanic sink. It easily could be after this season. It really could be. It really, really, truly could be. I do think him getting an extension is going to be tied to success. If they make it to the playoffs, even if they lose in the first round like they always do, I still think he's back. If they don't make it at all, I think he could be gone. But it's hard for me to envision him not being back just because I always do this with Cowboys fans, but do you really truly understand where you were prior to Tony Romo? Because that's where you're heading if you don't bring him back, potentially. Is you could be heading back into that quarterback abyss that you were in. I would love nothing more than to see that again, by the way. I would love nothing more than to see that. But I just don't think Jerry is stupid enough to do that. He's a lot of things. Jerry Jones isn't dumb. That's one thing I can say about him. He's a lot of things. Braggadocious, annoying, a know-it-all, arrogant, full of himself. He ain't stupid, though. So we'll see what happens. That's a fascinating situation in Dallas. I so hope it goes off the rails. I really do. JB3, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. JB3 writes, Emmanuel Forbes better get ready to learn some Canadian French. Man, my guy was getting drug on social media. I mean, they were dragging his ass. Miss Perry sent me a few videos. I was like, Lord have mercy. I tweeted back at her. He just probably should stay off of socials for a little while. Like, just don't even open up social media. Just leave it be, right? Just focus on your craft and don't allow the outside noise to penetrate in between your ears because, man, it was everywhere. Like, golly, man. I mean, the big social media accounts, the little ones, and all of them in between. He was getting it from all angles. And I couldn't open up my X and not run into another catch by Garrett Wilson on him. And, you know, there's a kid that was recording and he's like, hey, Emmanuel Forbes, Garrett Wilson's going to cook you. And then on that same play, before the ball's even thrown, he's like, I told you, Emmanuel Forbes. I said, oh my God, this is bad. this is all bad. Oh man. It's been rough for the kid, man. But I got something to say. I'm gonna save that for tomorrow. I got something to say about Forbes, man. But this has been a rough 16 hours for this kid. But I still got his back. I still got his back. GT7, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. GT7 writes, what's good? Lou, what's good? What's going on, GT? What's going on, GT Sim? He said, not tripping about first joint practice today. For a bunch of dudes that like to compete, they needed a wake up. Remember, we won all 4 preseason games last year and went 4-13. Also, Jets love flexing in the preseason. And I'll add this to what you just said. The Jets are a Super Bowl contending team. That is a Super Bowl roster we're talking about with the Jets. Keep that in mind. And I don't think a lot of people really took that into consideration yesterday because the Jets were awful last year, but they didn't have Aaron Rodgers last year because he was hurt. And they still were in a bunch of games and they still beat a lot of good teams. They beat the Eagles last year. They beat the Chiefs last year. Like, they beat the Bills last year. This is not a pushover Jets team. And with Aaron Rodgers, they are a Super Bowl contending team. Don't forget that. Do not forget that. GT7, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, Zach might put up some stats this year. What you think? I'm trying to think of what Zach you're referring to. I'm not going to ask you, Zach, who? Because you could be Luck. And I'm not walking into the trap. But you're going to have to tell me who you're talking about. Going to have to tell me. Now, I did see Zach Wilson in Buffalo. Or Buffalo, in Denver. Or not Zach Wilson. Drew Lock, excuse me, in New York tonight. And he was awful. He was awful. I loved it. Boy. Let me shut up. Let me shut up. Landry Baldwin. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Give me Cornelius Lucas at right tackle over Wiley. I don't think they're going to do that. So what we don't take into consideration, Landry, is the continuity between two players that have played with one another. And Wiley and Cosme played together for a full 17 games last year. Both of them played in every single game a season ago. And Cosme has talked about the comfort of knowing that Wiley's next to him and that working relationship that they have. And so while we are quick to be like, get him out of there, he stinks. We got, find a better guy. And eventually they will, right? Wiley is a placeholder, but he's our right tackle for now. And we don't have a choice. So I'm going to tell you right now, we sung that song last year. Guess what happened last year? Nothing. I'm not even going to play myself this year. I played myself already with Andrew Wiley by saying that he wasn't going to be the starting right tackle of this team. All offseason, I was pushing that narrative. I even did a video of misconceptions that were going to be proven, false. Like Andrew Wiley was the starting right tackle. People kept saying, I remember my guy Derek B was like, bro, why are you ignoring the elephant in the room? Andrew Wiley's our starting right tackle. I'm like, no, he's not. And I was getting mad too. No, he's not. So I did a whole video. De'Ami Brown's not going to be cut because so many people were, riding this De'Ami Brown getting cut narrative. And I'm like, y'all stop that shit. You might not like him, but stop that. He's not getting cut. We don't have enough talent at receiver to cut De'Ami Brown. Stop it. And I'm like, Andrew Wiley is not starting at right tackle. Stop it. Well, I had to offer up a double up because he's starting at right tackle. So I'm not fighting it anymore. I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to fight it anymore. There's just no reason to. He's our right tackle. He's our starting right tackle. Until otherwise notified, Andrew Wiley is our starting right tackle. Deal with it. We have to deal with it. Okay? David Brown, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Dave, writes, damn, did we look bad today? I'm sure. Who said we were winning 10 games? Fans are having second thoughts. There was a lot of backtracking. There was a lot of moonwalking going today, right? A lot of moonwalking going on. And I'll tell you this much. I said this at the top of the video earlier today that our fans were in mid-season form today, right? Oh, we're going to suck this year. I said the only thing that was missing was JP with his famous fire everybody line. That's the only thing that was missing today after the joint practice. I'm like, and I spent half of that video just telling everybody, relax. It's one joint practice. Rome was not built in one night. It was not built overnight. It was not built in one night. Relax. It's a process. They told us that. Y'all looking for, this is the problem with a fan base that has gone through what we've gone through, is that a lot of people don't have the patience to wait for them to assemble a roster that is capable of winning 10, 11, 12 games and this team being really good, because they've dealt with all of the losing. They're ready to win now, and it just doesn't work that way. So anyway, a lot of fans were having second thoughts. I will say that. Now, were those the same fans, spewing that 10 wins nonsense? Or I won't call it nonsense because we don't know what's going to happen. And I hope they're right. I want to be wrong. I want to win 10 games. Trust me. I would love nothing more than to be wrong about how many games we win this season. But the fact of the matter is, we're a young team. We're not super talented. We don't have a ton of depth. That's being revealed right now. If there was any question as to what the weakness of this roster is, it's not overall talent. I've been saying that. It's the depth of talent. All right. It's how much talent that we do have. We got some quality football players. Our starting lineup isn't bad on either side of the football. I'm worried about special teams, but even that can be fixed just like that. You get the right kicker after he's released, and we're fine, and we're off and running on special teams. It's if guys don't stay healthy, that's when things get murky for us. It just when you're at this stage of a recalibration, you don't have the type of depth that allows you to withstand injuries to your frontline starters. We can't have guys go down and still win football games. That is apparent right now. So the key to this season is we got to stay as healthy. And that's the key every year that you try to have. But especially for a roster like ours, you have to stay healthy or you don't stand a chance. GT7, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy GT writes, come on, man. Laughing my ass off. Zach Ertz. Oh, my fault. I had a brain fart. The Zach wasn't registering, right? It's a lot of Zachs around here, man. My fault. All right. I didn't know what Zach you were referring to. I apologize. Me malo. He does look good. I walked away today saying, all right, Zach, And look, I knew the value that he brought to the roster, not just as a veteran that could come in here and help guys out, but like he can still play. There's still gas left in that tank. So, what did I tell y'all when Jaden was drafted? And I talked about this with CJ Stroud a lot last year, but I specifically talked about it with Jaden when he was first drafted. The value of a tight end for a young quarterback. It's huge because generally the tight end is the first guy in the line of sight of a quarterback. And when you're a young quarterback, you're looking for easy completions. So a lot of times your best friend is the tight end. CJ Stroud relied so heavily last year on Dalton Schultz. Peyton Manning loved him some Dallas Clark. Loved him some Dallas Clark. And I can go down the list of, young quarterbacks finding the tight end because it's an easy thing to do. So I'm just telling you that Zach Ertz has a chance to have the kind of season that Logan Thomas had in 2020, his first year in Washington, when he was like third or fourth in the league in catches. Wasn't a lot of yards. I think he had like 72 catches or 69 catches for 600 and something yards. But it was a lot of catches because he was all of the quarterbacks that played that year's safety valve. I could see him, Zach Ertz being that for Jaden Daniels, a guy that he's going to look for quite a bit. Quite a bit. He can still play. DJ23, thank you for being a member of the MOBB for 18 months. Truly appreciate you. Writes, Forbes needs to call Daryl ASAP. Didn't Daryl work with him already a little bit? I mean, there's only so much Daryl can do, right? At the end of the day, I got a lot to say about Forbes. I'm going to save it for tomorrow. People are just crushing this kid. I actually feel bad for him today. This is what the social media era has created, right? You're not allowed to have a poor joint practice. That's where we are now. You can't even hide in a joint practice anymore. Remember the days of nobody even knew what the hell was going on in training camp and joint practices and this, that. Remember those days? Those were the days. Boy, them shits are gone. You can't run. You can't hide. Ready or not, here I come. You can't hide. I'm gonna find you. You can't hide nowhere. That man had a rough joint, not a game, but a joint practice. We talking about practice. Boy, that's rough. That's rough. But I think he's going to be all right. Again, if he's mentally tough, if he's a mentally tough kid, he's going to pull through. If he's not, this season could break him. It could break him. It could absolutely break him. If he's mentally tough, he's going to come out the other side stronger than ever and better because of it. But we're going to find out a lot about Emmanuel Forbes Jr. this season because this is going to be the make or break year of his career. I'll tell you that right now. So, let me say this too. Tell you what, let's take a quick little break and get a word from our sponsor who is powering this stream, BetUS. And then on the other side, I got something to say.
Michael Vick at BetUS.com. Catch an incredible 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits, plus 10% gambler's insurance. BetUS, my online sportsbook and casino.
So, something that is really interesting for me is the kickoff rule watching this game, I didn't flinch. Like the first game, I was like, oh man, this is so crazy. Like, oh wow, really into the kickoff. Like there were like 5 or 6 kickoffs. The Patriots scored 3 times. The Panthers scored at the very end. There was another kickoff. I didn't flinch. I didn't blink. It was almost like the kick was normalized to me already. It shouldn't be. And I'll probably be way more fascinated with it when Washington plays. But in this particular game, I looked at it and I didn't even, it didn't even register. Like I didn't even pay that much attention to it. I'm telling you, it's going to become a normal part of the game. And it's going to get to the point where you're going to be glad that they changed the rule because it's going to actually make it a part of the game. Now, we still haven't seen a big return yet. And at some point, that's going to happen. And I think somebody's going to break one in the preseason. Believe it or not. I think someone's going to break one in the preseason. I saw the biggest return so far. It was by a Panthers player, I believe, tonight. And he got it out to like the 36-yard line. So, and there were no flags. So, and he didn't break it like right up the middle. He got up to the pile where the blocks were being had, and then he bounced it outside. It did look like a run play. It actually looked like a run play. He got to the pile. He stopped a bit, and then he bounced it outside of the pile and got to the outside and got pushed out of bounds, but not before he got to the 36-yard line. So I think that the play is going to ultimately start to grow on people, and it'll just become a part of the game. You won't be looking at it as this separate entity, this dynamic kickoff. It'll just be the kickoff, right? We still have to get there, right? But I think it's going to become a play that won't be as foreign to us here shortly. And a lot faster than I thought, because I was really expecting to be locked into the kickoff. But I really wasn't. It just was another play for me. So anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me here on this Thursday night football overtime stream. We're going to be all over the place. I'm so excited. Did you guys hear the news? This first week of the preseason, I'm trying not to get too excited because this Drake Maye game, this decision to play on one possession kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, but I'm getting a lot of stuff that I wasn't expecting to get in this week 1 of the preseason. Did you hear Joe Burrow's playing in week 1 of the preseason? Now, their head coach didn't disclose how long. The fact that he's playing, I wasn't expecting him to play against Tampa Bay. Now I have to watch that game. It could be one possession. I don't care. I love it. Then I got some good news today. Josh Allen is playing. Caleb Williams is playing. Gotta watch Bears and Bills now. I mean, I was gonna watch it anyway if Caleb was playing. Now Josh Allen is playing. That goes to show you that they're not as confident in Buffalo. In past years, they weren't playing Josh Allen in the first game. They'd play him in the second game or the third game. They weren't playing him in the first game. And he may not play again in the preseason after this. I don't care. I love it. The Titans are playing their starters. I love it. I didn't know if Will Levis was going to play. He is. Now I have to watch. This is going to be a great first week. Brilliant. I'm excited. Then I'm going to watch these games only for guys to play 6 plays, and then I'll be like, I'm all jacked up. Caleb Williams is going to play 1 possession and then get out of there. Same thing with Josh Allen, and then I'm going to be like this. But anyway, I'm still excited. I'm getting more than I bargained for in week 1 of the preseason. And then I still got J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota against the Raiders. I still got to see what Bo Nix is talking about against Indy. And who knows? I'm actually interested to see all 3 of those quarterbacks in that game in Denver. And then what is Indy going to do? My guess is they're not going to play Anthony Richardson in the preseason, but I still want to see what they're going to do. So I got games all over the place, man. I'm going to watch the Falcons because I want to see Michael Penix Jr., right? Hopefully these quarterbacks who aren't starting, like, give me more. I shouldn't have to sit through, 3/4 of some third-string quarterback in Atlanta when you got Michael Penix Jr., and he's not going to play most likely this year if Kirk's healthy. Let me see him for a quarter and a half. Why not? Let me see him for 3 possessions, 4 possessions. Why not? Is it going to kill you? Anyway, I digress. Let me give one final massive shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this live stream. Once again, if you'd like to sign up for BetUS, use the link in the description of this video. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Thursday Night Football Overtime. Patriots 17, Panthers 3, week 1 of the preseason. Drake Maye, 1 possession, 2 of 3. Let's call it 17 yards. He looked pretty good. I was impressed. Only 6 snaps. Would have loved to have seen more. The one incompletion should have been caught. I wanted more. But Joe Milton, impressive debut. Nice little scramble. Electrifying play there. Touchdown pass. Interesting decision on the back end of that quarterback room for the Patriots. Really nothing to see here for the Panthers. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one. God bless. Good night.